morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids. And welcome to season 4 and episode number 405 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Monday, June 17th, 2024, and it is a gray day here at the Ottawa Beaver Lodge. Really gray. I'm not sure if you hear the sounds on the street out there coming in because there's a big city truck doing its thing. So I apologize for the extra noise if it's being picked up. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and with me as always is my good friend Mr. Grizzly, and occasionally the boss, Alistair McBear, making sure that we do a good job. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Masters, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And of course, we have Lola. She was looking right into the camera just a couple of seconds ago, though.
Yeah, and then she decided to lie down and take a nap. She is a ham.
We have a bit of an extended show for you this Monday, but before we do anything else, let's ask our good friend, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health doing today, sir?
Well, good morning, Mr. Beaver. Mental health-wise, I think I'm pretty good. I'm a little tired. Had a bit of a sleepless night, which I have a lot of those. And that's credit to the medication. The medication does wonders to keep me sane and happy and keeps the anxiety in tow, but it does disrupt your sleep patterns. So I don't think I've had a really good night's sleep in a couple of years. So,
Oh my.
But mental health-wise, I think I'm pretty good. Surprisingly, not feeling anxious about today at all. Not at all. And I'm kind of surprised at that because I know what I'm going to be doing today. So maybe that's why I don't feel any anxiety about it. It's not what I want to be doing because, it's difficult for me physically these days. But that being said, I'm not chuffed about it at all.
We got a little bit of a weird situation for some reason, Mr. Grizzly, because I can't seem to get your sound coming out on your on speakerphone. So I'm only hearing you as if I would have the phone next to my ear. So you're very, very faint for me. So if I happen to miss something you're saying,
no worries.
That will be why. All right. And of course, for those of you who have been following us, this weekend was our mental health walk weekend. And I will admit that yesterday I did nothing because I was a little poop and tired because it marks the end of now 6 months of big activity for me. So now there will definitely be some downtime for the Beaver and no additional activities for a bit. But Mr. Grizzly, wow, really, that was a good day. That was a very, very good day.
I thought so too. I thought things went really well. We had a good turnout again for something last minute, and something last minute, and not a lot of people were able to shuffle, and that's fine. We had about a dozen people show up, do the walk. We had a good audience for the live stream walk, and a great audience for the live stream pubcast. We've made some inroads, and we have some people who have been happy to offer us their time next year to organize and promote the walk. So yeah, we're well on our way to turning this into a genuine charitable foundation for next year. Not sure if you can hear me or not.
Yep. Now I can't hear you at all. I
Okay.
didn't hear a word of that, so I don't know what to respond. So having no idea what Mr. Grizzly said, so don't know if I'm repeating. It was a really great day. We had a small but very enthusiastic group join us for the walk. As Mr. Grizzly probably talked about, we were able to successfully stream from the walk itself. Not the best camera angles, walking and trying to stay in frame the entire time. But hey, it got the job done, and everything went well at the pub itself. We had a great discussion
Hmm.
with the senator, Dr. Sancho, and it was the first time that we had done part. Yeah, yes, and it was the first time that we had done a podcast with a little bit of a live audience, which is really nice because sometimes we just have whoever we're going to have as a guest that is there, and they'll do their bit, and they'll stay for a while, and either they'll leave after that. But yep, for that whole portion, everybody that came to the walk did stay, and it was really great. It's I actually probably could get used to doing live podcasts that have a bit of an audience.
Yeah, I think in the future that would be something we'd like to have. It's a once a month thing. So once a month we can have an audience live in the pub. You can't hear me. Just keep
Mm,
going.
yep, indeed, indeed. All right. So yeah, it was a great day. Thank you to Senator Brazo and Dr. Sancho. Thank you to Debbie Sims and Michelle Rochon from the Office of the Senator, who've been a joy to work with. They've made everything absolutely painless and seamless. Thank you to Christopher Morasti, the Executive Director and founder of Men of the North program. Thank you to Bill Jeffrey, the founder of the Lonely Man Project in Newfoundland. The Men of the North is in La Ronge, Saskatchewan, and they got pretty much the whole town to come out for a walk, and they were able to join it with the participation event. And they even had somebody from the broader business community that had a donation of 100 pairs of shoes to people, and they were able to coordinate that. So they made it like a very holistic event. Walk for your
Mhm.
mental health, walk for your regular health, participation, get some shoes so that you can be able to continue going on for walks. It was a great event. It was a great event over there, and they joined us in the live podcast to talk to us about it. And Mr. Morasti will be with us in the final week of the month of June to talk about what they do over there. This week, our guest probably on Friday, because we will have a pre-record for you because yours truly will be recovering from the absolutely amazing Sarah McLachlan concert that will be held in Laval
Oh,
on Thursday night, the 30th anniversary of Fumbling Towards Ecstasy, her album. So we are going to go see that. So we will have Dr. Whitley, who is one of the nation's foremost researchers on men's and boys' mental health, and he was the guest of honor at the event in Newfoundland organized by the Lonely Man Project on Thursday of last week, the 13th, which was actual National or International Men's Mental Health Day. So we will have him. So we will have guests for the rest of the month, which means we have decided to keep our portals open until the end of the month, if you could. So, for example, if you're anywhere in Canada and would like to donate to the Canadian Mental Health Association, for example, you can find the first annual Mental Health Walk donor page on their site and make a donation there. And I won't be able to include links today, but I will when I'm back at the regular Beaver Lodge and can forward links to Mr. Grizzly a little more easily. so that you can find it. But right now, for today, you might have to look for it on your own a little bit. We also, if you want to keep on buying our stylish t-shirts, we will be selling them until the end of the month. So you just send an email to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com with a $35 e-transfer and your shirt size. We can go up to 3XL and we will get one to you. If you just want to make a straight up contribution, you can. Anything contribution that you make to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, please make sure that you mark it that it's for the mental health walk. Will be divided between our two grassroots beneficiaries, Lonely Man Project and Men of the North. So that would be very helpful. And yeah, we'll keep on taking those donations until the end of the month because since we still have guests and since we're still be talking about it for the rest of the month, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month, why not make it just one day? Let's give you multiply the opportunities for you to be able to participate. With regard to raising awareness, check. Raising a little bit of money, check. You guys did come through. Not a huge amount, but that wasn't the goal this year. It was just an add-on because, since things were going so well, let's see what else we could do. But you did come through, so we thank you with that. Thank you for that. We definitely have the commitment from the senator and the doctor to be involved with us again next year and for years to come because they really believe in this initiative. So that's absolutely fantastic. We're very happy about that. Because the event went so smoothly and went so well, we have some good pictures and stuff that we can use to help promote for next year. We really, 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 really couldn't go wrong. Everybody was enthusiastic with their participation, and there was just a good vibe all around. So, my heart is full.
It was a good
Thank you
day.
to Kit, Mr. Jim, also who took some pictures of the live event podcast that netted us some extra photos that we can use to promote. So, and Mr. Jim has also, Mr. Grizzly, offered when we come for our next podcast, if we can find some time, you, me, Mademoiselle Fox, and Lola, to do a couple of photo sessions so we can get some promo shots to help promote the show and hopefully if we get a web presence this year to be able to have some additional pictures of us to help populate the site. So but he's got a good camera and good skills, so hopefully we will have some professional quality photos that we can use for that type of stuff. So like I said, the kits keep on coming through for us. We're really grateful, and we also got a message that I had not have time to respond to. So if you're watching, it's not that I've ignored you. It's just that we've put all our attention towards the mental health walk. But one of our kits, younger kit from the trans community, has offered also to be able to do some graphics for us. Really wants to support us. So and we will be calling on you. So thank you so very much. We really, again, everything that you all contribute, and we received other, commitments from kits over the past couple of days with regard to having to shut down our Etsy shop. Some people offered to help with inventory and storage and shipping and production and that type of stuff, and that's all very kind. And if we are able to do that, then we will definitely call on you. But just the willingness to help fills our heart. So thank you. It was a wonderful, 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 wonderful event. I volunteered to let Lola be my laptop for this. So Kit Super Kyle. We love it. And yes, I finally got to meet Kit Super Kyle. And the hug was amazing. So yes, I am a very, very happy beaver. Next year, onward and upwards, bigger and better things. And but yeah, for the first one, my heart is full, my cup runneth over. Thank you to everyone who participated so enthusiastically. We have good partners, good sponsors. We established good relationships. We've built a solid platform from which to jump off next year.
Yes.
And that's really all we could ask.
Well, and as the senator said, he said, I'm from Maniwaki. I'm as grassroots as it gets. So he's fully on board with our small little grassroots growing up organization.
Yep. Yep, indeed. Hopefully, I'll be able to find a way to get the group photo to you at some point, there, Mr. Grizzly, so you could put up for the kids before we end the show, uh, showing how what a handsome group we had. Yeah. All right, kids and cubs. Other things in the news. Of course, on the day of the walk, the entire nation stopped during that evening for the Edmonton Oilers playing the Florida Panthers, trying not to get swept. And gee, I don't know if this was what, because let's be honest, the Florida Panthers have been playing ridiculously well.
Mhm.
The first game, Edmonton did everything you could expect a team to do, and the goal would not go in the net. That goaltender stood on his head. Second match, Third match wasn't good. They scored first, and then it didn't go well, but they ended strong. Gave an idea that maybe something might be coming. Now, often when it comes to the fourth match, right? I mean, if you're at home, you like to sweep, but if you're away, do you kind of pull off the gas on the fourth match so that you could try and close it off in five at home?
That's
Right.
the thought
Now,
process, but getting
yeah,
slaughtered 8-1, 8-1
mm,
slaughter? No, I don't think they let the gas off.
I
I
know,
think they just got
but
beat.
I yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, part of me says, well, yeah, no, if the competitive instinct, killer instinct, if you can finish it, you finish it. But then finishing at home, well, that's an extra gate in terms of revenue. And well, pictures are always so much more fun for advertising next year when you win at home and the whole crowd's wearing your colors and everybody's standing up and cheering and there's like things being thrown in the air and all that kind of stuff. So we don't know. But if I understood what it is that you were saying, Mr. Grizzly, yeah, but if you're going to lose like that, you're not going to go lose 8-1, right? Uh, Now, there's the other side. The other question, too, is by running up the score 8-1, did Edmonton make Florida mad for the next game? Um, but after like three or four, I was like, okay, guys, boys, save some for the next match.
Mm.
It's like you're sitting there. It's like, well, yeah, we scored 7 more goals in one match. Yeah, but you need to spread that production around, and you just need to do just enough to win. But hey, if the Florida Panthers did pull their goaler after about like 4 or 5 and put somebody else in, so maybe a bit of shaken confidence.
I think so. I think the
You
confidence.
never
I think
know.
Bobrovsky's confidence is seriously shaken. I'm a goalie. I
Yes.
know what it's like to get scored on 5 times in a game, get pulled, and then they score 3 more. I know that feeling. I saw the look on his face. He was destroyed. Destroyed. So, who do they put in for the next game? I don't know. How does it go? I haven't a clue. I think Edmonton may have some momentum here, though.
Yeah.
If I think they can stretch it to 7. Who knows who wins the final? But I'd like to see it go to 7 games.
Yeah. Would indeed. Would indeed. So, but right now we get a game 5. So, right, we'll take it. We'll take
Yeah.
it. So long as they're still in the game, we will take it. So, but very exciting. And I even heard some rumors of a few people from Calgary who actually made the choice to support Edmonton now, but only exclusively now. But there are a few. They do exist because apparently that was not going to happen at all, ever, anywhere. And there are a few that have been able to put the rivalry aside in order to cheer for Canada's team this time around. So, but whether you're keeping the rivalry going, or
Temporary.
whether you've temporarily moved to the dark side, I hope
Just
that you enjoy
temporarily.
the rest of the hockey to come. It's all in good fun, kids and cubs. It's all in good fun. All right. Bit of a wildfire report, kids and cubs. We hadn't had one in a while because things had calmed down after an early start. But it does seem that there is a fire burning on the doorstep of a community called Fort Good Hope in the Northwest Territories. The fire is now about 9 square kilometers in size. Now, Fort Good Hope is described by CBC as a fly-in community, and it has been under an evacuation order. Uh, about 500 residents of the community are currently in the process of leaving by air and by boat because it's a fly-in community, right? You can't just drive out. So the evacuation orders and the process there is a little more engaged, and they had to start a little earlier to make sure that people have gotten out. Um, there is thick plumes of thick smoke billowing over homes. About 100 have fled by boat to a nearby fish camp um, called Norman Wells, I believe it is, out in the area. Um, Oh no, they went to a fish camp, and then there was planes that have ferried 200 evacuees to Norman Wells. So yes, the people who left by boat went to a nearby fish camp. The ones that left by plane went to Norman Wells. So that's about 300 of the 500 at last reporting that have been evacuated. So as you can see, it's a bit of an involved process. Um, Now Norman Wells is on the Mackenzie River. That is also a fly-in community. But it seems that everybody there has pulled together. There are a couple of hotels that people are staying at, and there are cots at the community center that have been put out by the welcoming community to greet those who are coming. Um, People have been providing some entertainment, some music at the school at which people are staying, um, and there is no rain at the moment expected in the coming days. Fire crews are expecting the week ahead to be rather challenging. It is believed that the fire is human caused as a result of a unattended campfire. Once again, kids and cubs, please, 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 I can't ask you um, more and passionately, if you are doing anything with fire over the course of the summer, do not leave it unattended and do not leave it to just burn out on its own. Even if it's very low with little embers, make sure that it is out before you leave. We can't have any additional accidents. Mother Nature's going to do a good job on her own with lightning and wind breaking down power lines and stuff. So let's not give her any help on this one. Richard, the Fort Good Hope Chief Colin Perot says that he and others who stayed behind, and that was the night before last, were chasing down small fires. He's quoted as saying, "It was flaring up all over the place. We have a bunch of community members and a 4-member fire crew that was sent here yesterday to assist us, running back and forth with all these fires flaring up all over. So far, no houses or buildings have been destroyed, which is a good thing." Um, what else do we have from here? Fire officials said that winds had lightened yesterday, which helped firefighters keep the blaze from advancing to the community. So that's about the main stuff that I have there. That seems to be the only major hotspot in the nation at the moment, which is good. There is one going on in the states in California that people may be hearing about as well. That's quite a big deal. In Los Angeles County, there was a blaze that began Saturday afternoon in a little community called Gorman, which is in the northwestern part of LA. And it seems that hundreds of people have been forced from their homes there, and it's burned down nearly 15,000 hectares. And the cause of the blaze is still under investigation there. So that's what we have for fires going around. The other big thing happening in the nation is that happens in the city of Calgary. It isn't so much weather related, but weather can certainly compound it. And it's a water main that has broken in the city. Very, it's caused some damage, and it seems that it was going to be down for a little bit. And it also appears that the communications from the city haven't been necessarily the best when it comes to that, but it seems that they are aware of it, and they are trying to improve because remember on a previous show, we read the comments that Jen Gerson had to say about how to do proper communications for this type of thing, and it seems that there may have been people listening at that time because they have indeed improved. Now, the bad news. Well, let's put it this way. The good news is that the community seems to be rallying together in terms to conserve water. The bad news is that while they were going in to inspect what was wrong, they decided to look along the pipeline. It's not the pipeline, the water pipes themselves, to see if there was any other place that was compromised, and they found 5 spots
Oh,
where the main is compromised, which means that the work will now take 3 to 5 weeks instead. So all these things like reducing your water consumption by 25% and all the tips that you've been given, it's not going to be just for a week or a couple of days, but we'll have to keep up for 3 to 5 days. Repair work is set to begin today on the water pipe. The feeder main had forced residents across the city to restrict water use for days. Aaron Collins explains that, he's a reporter for CBC, explains that the restrictions will be in effect for weeks to come. Now, the city is giving you some better advice. So, for example, they're asking you not to flush at every time, and they're using the little saying, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So just
yeah.
making sure that you do that. Uh,
I think that's kind of funny.
residents are urged to continue curbing their water use. They are being asked to consider low prep meals, reusing cups throughout the day, and even using compostable dishes instead of regular dishes in order to reduce dishwashing and either through the sink or having to use a dishwasher. There's a ban on watering lawns, and that ban could remain in place for a month after city crews found those extra potential weak spots in the pipes. There's also fire bans in place, naturally, because they're asking people to conserve water in case, for example, there's a fire and fire crews might need it. So it's not gone. So it's not all gone. The city's spokesperson from the city say that the repairs will take weeks, and they say the damaged sections. This is a quote: "The damaged sections remain our top priority. Initial inspections and site prep work are already underway." So there you go. Officials declared a local state of emergency over the weekend. There is pressure to get the repairs done quickly, and the main reason for that, not only it's summer and temperature is going to get warmer, particularly in Calgary, as July approaches, but also because the Calgary Stampede is coming.
I got something for you on that.
In about
the UCP, we must move the election dates because of disasters. Also, the UCP, we can't cancel the Stampede because of a disaster. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, the problem here is that they're saying it's going to take 3 to 5 weeks to repair, but the Stampede starts in about 18 or 19 days. So, and you're going to have about, I don't know, at least 100,000 people coming into town who will all want to use water while it's not there. So, I am having feelings of shades of best summer ever or best Christmas ever. Hey, everybody. We know we have no water, but hey, we're going to keep on going and have all these people come in anyway because we can't let the economy take a hit. But if it's taking 3 to 5 weeks, let's assume 5 weeks, which is 35 days, and people are arriving in 19. And for 16 of those 35 days, you're going to have all the city of Calgary plus an extra 100,000 people. And those 100,000 people are not citizens of Calgary and maybe are not as inclined to be all in with not taking a long shower.
Yeah. Right.
Hey, it's my vacation. I paid my money.
Yeah.
That could lead to trouble. I know it's tough to pull back on something like the Stampede, but um, potentially 16 days of the residents of your city screaming bloody murder is not going to be very comfortable either.
Well,
It's
one of the things I've heard is that the water main that was built was supposed to last for 100 years. I think it's less than 40 years old, and they're blaming it on the lack of infrastructure supports from the province, which is why this tragedy has taken place.
Yep, and probably and ultimately poor choice of material back in the day when that was put in. There was some talk about there was a slight period of time in that area where there was a regulatory easement with regards to quality of pipes at the time, and it seems that those were put in during that particular period. So maybe those were the pipes that were allowed to be purchased with this regulatory easement. Because again, when we say red tape reduction, we say easing of regulations, and where we often say easing of regulations, we say reduction of citizen protections. Often red tape reduction is code for how little can we get away doing to protect the citizens without getting a class action slapped on our ass that will destroy us.
Cut in
Cut in
corners.
So yes, there is some speculation that back in the day, when the decision to use that type of quality of pipe was made, there were corners cut.
There you go, 1975. So it's 49 years old.
Yeah,
It's supposed to last for another
about
51.
50 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah. So the crews are racing to fix the breaks in the water line. They've got a 3 to 5 week timeline. Terry Trembath from CBC had interviewed Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek, who said that she's repeating the message about the critical importance of conserving water. Calgary's Chamber of Commerce President, CEO Deborah Yedlin, says that the uncertainty is worrying. Quote, "We are very focused on making sure that the right things happen so that we can host all the visitors that we know are coming. You know, hotels are sold out."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you also have no water. John Dick says that they are studying data from past years of water usage during peak times and working with the Stampede. Quote, she says, "I can't speculate right now what we may have to do because we're not at that point yet. But as we get closer, definitely those are conversations that we will have." In a short statement, Stampede officials said that they'll continue to work with the city as the situation evolves. The greatest outdoor show on earth, as it is dubbed, generates about $540 million for the city's economy every year. And of course, the city has planned on that and doesn't want to let that go. So they're trying to do as much as they can to make sure that it goes smoothly. But the 10-day event runs July 5th to the 14th, and it is June 17th. And unless they're going to have people working 24/7 on repairing those mains and that absolutely everything goes smoothly and there's no delay on getting any piece of equipment or material there, maybe they can get enough of it repaired by, if not all of it, by the 5th, that if people still work together, uh, things might improve a bit. And then over the course of the 10 days, if they keep working on it, but then again, with all the traffic, with additional tours in the city, will they be able to block off spot for it? It's logistically, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But they're at the point right now where they should be considering, you know what, do we try to like just push everything back 2 weeks if it's possible, or go ahead? And it looks like they want to try to go ahead. So do not be surprised if about 3 weeks from now we start hearing horror stories and lots of complaints, because it seems that, like I said, they're going to try to push through. and I just don't know how that works, bringing 100,000 people into a city, and everybody needs water, and the water mains. And I, it just seems to me to be one of those things where you look at the situation, you say water is just so vital, and there's just so much demand, and you're going to have people that are not necessarily as invested as the members of the community in terms of preserving, and that may cause more problems
Yes.
when it's actually happened than you probably want to deal with and have people to deal with at that moment. So, hoping that the Stampede doesn't become a sort of fire festival.
Let's hope. I'm going to be there. I fly out on the 5th. Bridget and I are flying out on the 5th. Bridget's with me until the Tuesday. She flies home, and I'm going to be there for another 2 weeks. We're going to do some camping, hiking, me and my buddy. I'm going to visit some family, and we're going to try and catch a CFL game if we can, either Saskatchewan or Edmonton or Calgary, whichever, you know. So, yeah, it's going to be a good time. Going to be a good time.
Yeah, well,
I have
I hope. Yeah,
I have a
that
picture
would be
for
nice.
us. I have a
Yeah,
picture.
yeah. I do hope you get your. There it is. Isn't that a good-looking group of people?
Yep. Yep. And you
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
Lola for
I
the
had
first
somebody
time. She
ask
was
me if I
hiding out.
had gone to the gym and started working out.
Well, the black is
I
slimming.
haven't, by the way, but thanks for the compliment.
Black is slimming.
Yes, I have lost 10 pounds though since the start of the tennis season, so maybe
There you
that's
go.
what you noticed.
Could be. Could be.
Hey, put a racket in my hand, make me run. I'm a happy beaver. Oh, by the way, did I tell you, Mr. Grizzly, the other day I played tennis against the guy with the hardest serve
Hmm.
I've personally encountered.
Right.
Holy crow. I thought I had felt like target practice before a couple of times last year.
Oh.
I was just literally, his arm was a cannon. Like near the end of the match, I was starting to be able to block them and still get them back in. But I was literally target practice, and when I was serving, I felt like I was just like a service machine. I just like hit the server that would come back like boom, just like holy shit. It's like I barely got a racket on on the ball. I did win one game somehow. I think he double faulted twice though, so he gave me a 30-love advantage in that one to start with. But holy crow! Just because I went to the Montreal tournament once, and there's this female tennis player from the UK named Naomi Brody. I don't think she's playing anymore. Um, but she had the hardest serve that I'd ever witnessed live from a woman serving. I think she was serving at like 110 or 120 kilometers an hour or something.
Mm.
It was fast. To what it was very impressive. And I was telling them, my Beaver sweetie, I would like, if I could just like get on the court once and like and just like want to know like what one of those serves sort of like feels like. Ooh, boy, I tell you, it's like I don't know exactly how it is that you're supposed to hand hold the racket, but when it hit the racket, I could feel it all through my arm. And I don't know if he was serving as hard as she was, but holy crap. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I actually, when if you ever watch Nadal and you see like he stands like about like 12 feet behind the baseline to be able to get something, I was standing normally I stand on the baseline or a little inside the box. I was like for about 4 feet behind the baseline to give myself enough time because it was just coming so fast, enough time to actually see it, to get a racket up, to get something on it. I was like, oh boy. So yeah, just when you think you're getting better, along comes someone who's like, yeah, you got
Teach
all
you a
that to
lesson.
learn
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
um, Speaking of tennis, we had some good results from Canadians as well. Gabrielle Dabrowski, who has been off for a lot of the season, guessing she was recovering for an injury, has joined back up with her partner Aaron Routliff, and they won the grass tournament tune-up to Wimbledon and Hertogenbosch, the Netherlands. So champions in her first tournament back, good for her. And Bianca Andreescu was playing at a tournament in Nottingham, made it all the way to the final, defeating Naomi Osaka along the way. Naomi Osaka, I think, has like 3 Grand Slams to
Hmm.
herself, her name. And that was a quarterfinal, believe it or not. That like Naomi Osaka and Bianca Andreescu should be a final, like in any tournament. This was a quarterfinal because both of them are coming back from injuries, right? So their rankings are lower, so they get no advantage coming in. But yes, she played in the final against Ludmila Samsonova, who's like top 15 in the world or something, and it was a good match. But she did lose in the final. But that's just her second tournament back as well from injury, and she's already in a final. She played one tournament on clay, switched to grass, made a final.
I have some breaking news.
Oh, yes, please.
Greek
Oh my
Coast
God.
Guard threw migrants overboard to their death, witnesses say. Apparently, the Greek Coast Guard has caused the deaths of dozens of migrants in the Mediterranean over a 3-year period, witnesses say, including 9 who were deliberately thrown into the water. Ugh.
Ugh.
This is from the BBC. The BBC is not known to print hyperbolic stories. The BBC is not known to print mis or disinformation. They would have vetted the hell out of this before they printed it. So this is really disturbing. It says we showed footage of 12 people being loaded onto a Coast Guard boat and then abandoned on a dinghy. They showed footage to a former senior Greek Coast Guard officer. When he got up from his chair and with his mic still on, he said it was obviously illegal and an international crime. So somebody's going to prison, and somebody should go to prison. Maybe a few people should. That is horrible.
That's terrible. Again, there's a song I like from the Pet Shop Boys called "What Keeps Mankind Alive." It's off their double album called Alternative, and it's basically they took a poem from Bertolt Brecht and basically put it to music. And it goes, the chorus is, what keeps mankind alive? The fact that millions are daily tortured, stifled, punished, silenced, oppressed. Mankind can keep alive thanks to its brilliance at keeping its humanity repressed. For once, you must not try to shut the facts. Mankind is kept alive by bestial acts. And that right there is an example of it. Imagine having so little regard for the value of human life that you just throw people off a boat.
Well, when you have a global leader, Donald Trump, when he was president, comparing human beings to vermin, this is, it starts to get. This is how the Holocaust began. They didn't start with gas chambers; they worked their way up to it.
Yep. As soon as you start deciding that certain people are not worthy and not worth living.
Yeah.
It's not.
This is how it begins, right?
Yep. It's amazing what you can justify. It's amazing what people are able to justify for themselves. Speaking of that, over the course of the weekend, as you know, the Prime Minister has been away the last little bit. He was at a G7 meeting.
Mm-hmm.
First, where it seems that the biggest decision, there was more that was decided there, but the biggest decision, the big piece of news that came out of there is that there was an agreement to fund Ukraine to the tune of about $50 billion by borrowing against seized Russian assets and handing the money over. And of course, for the longest time, there's been talk about this for a while, but then it was like, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. Well, it seems like finally they've decided that they've had enough and that they're going to do that. So President Zelensky has about $50 billion coming his way, which should probably help. It seems that also that the United States has been making steps, the global community has been making steps to set up these types of funds external to the government of the United States itself that would allow Ukraine to keep being funded for a while yet, in case that there's a change of government. So they're preparing the terrain just in case, which is good. And then over the course of the weekend, in Switzerland, a country known for its hospitality, for its neutrality and hospitality, of course, has been hosting nations, ironically, that have taken a side. Over the course of the weekend, 92 nations gathered in Switzerland to participate in a two-day Ukraine-sponsored peace summit. Ukraine convened the summit to set conditions for future peace negotiations. Now, this wasn't a peace negotiation summit because, well, Russia wasn't invited and you can't negotiate peace by yourself, right? But it was to sort of set the conditions and discuss things. So, of the 92 nations that were gathered, about 80 signed the final communique saying that Ukraine's territorial integrity must be the basis for any peace agreement to end Russia's war. They said that a peace deal should also hinge on Russia returning all the deported Ukraine children and prisoners of war and withdrawing all Russian troops from the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that he's pushing for a follow-up summit to end the war quickly. He's quoted as saying, "Moving to peace means acting fast. Preparations will take months, not years." Among the leaders there was, of course, Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, and he was saying that this weekend summit wasn't just about Ukraine. Quote, "It's about countries around the world coming together to stand up to protect and reinforce international law that keeps us all safe." And to do that, the Prime Minister of Canada said that all nations gathered had to stand together. Now, several participants did not sign on to the communique. As we mentioned, Russia did not take part. China also did not take part, though it was invited. Russia didn't because it was not.
Mhm.
And that seems to be casting some doubt on the viability of any plan that would come from that event. But said, plans are being made for peace. Reconstruction funds for Ukraine post-war are being set up. Money is finding a way through loans and guarantees, and borrowing against frozen assets to funnel more money there to the fight. And as we mentioned on previous shows, I think Russia has about another 2 years to go before all the things that they're doing economically to maintain the illusion in country that things are still fine, lose all the gas behind them, and then the cracks really start to appear to the people. So, so long as the people in Russia are not turning against their government in numbers enough for Putin to be concerned about, this is probably going to continue. There's probably about a year or two more before the cracks in the economy really start to appear there. Now, of course, that war has just entered its third year. So, if we're talking about another two at least for the cracks to start to show economically, we're going to be in this for a while, kids and cubs. We're going to
I'm
be in
afraid
this
so.
for a while, sadly. But preparing the path to peace is still very, very important. You got to lay the groundwork before, because you don't want to get to a position where something major happens in Russia, and it creates an opportunity to move, and either the equipment or the money or the will or the training is not there. Right. It seems also that one of the things at the meeting that happened was that the government of Canada was uh, criticized, might be too much of a strong word in this case, but was very, very strongly urged to get to its 2% of GDP commitment with NATO. And even though we don't have plans to be there yet, we do have plans with the recent update to the defense strategy, which happened a couple of months ago, getting us up to, I think it was 1.76% of GDP, which is probably the highest we've ever been. And with other plans down the road to get to two. So we're hearing a lot of things about partners in the United States specifically saying you need to get there or else there'll be consequences. We do have a roadmap to get there, because but we don't have anything yet that says if we do these things, this for sure will bring us to 2%. Now, of course, we are, as I mentioned, that we were in what was called the quadrant of shame, which was not only were we meeting our not meeting our 2%, but we weren't spending, I think it was 20% or 10%, I think it was, of GDP on military equipment and procurement. On the second one, we are no longer in the quadrant of shame. So we are spending with this new plan. It does get us to spending the amount wanted, proportionally at least, on procurement and equipment and that type of stuff, but we're still not at 2%. So we are getting there, and it seems that the government, because the government does not want to announce, we're going to go to 2% in this amount of time, because the amount that would take out of the budget that would have to go there mean having to kill other initiatives in order to make room for it, or borrowing extremely heavily in order to finance that, which we're not going to be doing in the current conditions. So we have an X number of year plan that gets us to 1.76, and as things come up, because that's the one thing about Canada, and it has been what we've been coasting on for a while, but it's still true nonetheless that when there's something, we have a regular plan, and then when something kind of pops up as a curveball, we are there, and then we do mobilize a lot of stuff. So we're very good when there's a crisis to come in with things and supplies and whatnot, and be willing to throw the extra money in those instances, and that's a little bit what's been saving our bacon in terms of international reputation. But it seems that that's not good enough anymore with what's going on with the war breaking out in Europe, and Russia seeming to be more determined and making stronger allies with Iran and China and other such nations. So we'll see what's going on there. But yes, those were from the summits that have been going on. Those have been the main takeaways: extra money for Ukraine, some pressure on us to be able to get to 2% a little more quickly if we can, and then the $50 billion in asset revenue from frozen Russian assets. Those
Yeah,
were
because
the big announcements.
I think they've seized 350 billion in total, and they were looking at 50 billion to redistribute. They can't just send out 350 billion because it sets a new
Right.
precedent, right? And there's legalities around it. The money's been seized, sure, yes, but the 50 billion was voted on by the G7, and it's a done deal, and it needs to happen. I think the 300 that remains will be used to rebuild Ukraine after this, because Ukraine is getting decimated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other ask from the government of Ukraine, of course, was some air defense systems that we have promised them that have not arrived yet. Because, well, like I said, it's not like we handed hundreds of $millions to Ukraine and said, "Go buy yourself an air defense system." We're going to buy it. We're probably even building it
Mhm.
in country, possibly, and then shipping it over. So the people in Ukraine, are expressing confidence that, it's like, yes, it's Canada. They're good for it. We will be getting it. It's just that, sooner would be better than later, considering what's going on the ground. But you got to build the air defense system. It just happens. Now, it seems that our when it comes to that, the prime minister said at the conference, "I think the first piece of success of this really is seeing 100 different countries come together from all corners of the world," which is true. It is hard to get 100 nations in a room, for a peace summit. So that is a big success. And, uh, said about 100, it looks like it was really about 92 and 80 signed on. So that's pretty good. But the prime minister didn't come empty-handed. He also came with cash for Ukraine, so some $52.4 million in financial assistance, which will be used to replace damaged energy infrastructure, because the Russians are, under Putin, are really making a point to try to sabotage Ukraine's ability to provide energy for itself, as a matter to bring them to their knees. To remove explosives and mines, and to support children and youth that are at risk. Estimates say that up to 20,000 children may have been kidnapped by Russia since the start of the war, and there are some news articles that I've seen that people are suspecting that some of those children have been being put up for international adoption in Russia, which is not again, right? You would think that you would not be kidnapping children and trying to strip them of their language and everything and all that kind of stuff, because that's not good. But if you were doing that, you would assume that you would at least, it would seem to me that would be rather obvious in international law that stealing children from their parents and then adopting them out to other people somewhere around the world would probably be highly illegal. Prime Minister is on record as saying everyone can agree that taking kids away from their families, trying to erase their language, their culture, that's an element of genocide. That's pure colonialism. And we would know because we've done it. It is Indigenous History Month.
Yes.
We've tried that thing. We're not proud of it. It was really, really bad idea.
We've done a lot of bad things in the past.
It was a dumb idea too. But the Prime Minister was less committal on other fronts. Recently, the government of France announced that it would be sending military trainers to Ukraine because, well, they're looking to get new military recruits to speed up combat, to get them up to speed on combat. So France is going to be doing that. He called on the president, Emmanuel Macron, called on a coalition of allies to do the same. Prime Minister of Canada said, "We have always been there to support Ukraine with what it needs. We are delivering light armored vehicles as we speak that Ukraine is in need of, and we continue to do training in many different locations." So yeah, that's about what's going on at that front. There's been a couple of other things, like for example, at the conference, the president of Slovenia, Nataša Musar, did note the absence of China and made a point of saying, quote, "We have to talk to the enemy and we cannot negotiate peace between like-minded countries." So that's the next step. And the foreign affairs minister of Saudi Arabia, kind of interesting to see that they would be there, but they were there. Faisal bin Farhan Al Saad says that they're willing to build a bridge, not a physical bridge, but build a bridge between nations. They're willing to be that type of partner. Quote, "We believe it is important that the international community encourage any step towards serious negotiations, which will require difficult compromise." Volodymyr Zelensky said at the end of the summit, quote, "We are responding to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, not only with full-scale defense, but also with full-scale diplomacy." So there you go. And it's, according to Reuters, the final summit draft says that the countries there have committed to not use force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. Now, the Kremlin, for its side, says that its preconditions for peace include Ukraine ceding 4 provinces to Russia's control, which Ukraine is going, yeah, no. No,
No.
pretty much. We're not handing over those 4 provinces to you. Now, of course, that's really important to Putin because, again, in the save face operation, Putin has not won this war. He's already lost the war, especially geopolitically, because the main objective for Putin, at least stated, right, was that NATO not expand. And well, we have Sweden and Finland, and all of a sudden, Russia's contiguous border with a NATO country, because of the addition of Finland, just increased by a lot. A lot. So, and they're an international pariah. And financially, they are slowly becoming a basket case. And as a result of this, China is slowly but surely replacing Russia as the number 2 at the international poker table. Whereas Russia is still at the big table, but depending on how much it insists on wanting to go through with this for either vanity or ego or whatever, or just because Putin can't accept a loss, they might be at the risk of going down a couple of tables when all this
Yeah,
is over.
certainly sounds like it.
And at some point, Putin is going to have to make that decision whether or not he wants to barely be staying at the big boys table, hanging on by the fingernails, or wants to be demoted. And there have been some changes in Russia. It seems that the main quarterback of the war now in Russia is not someone with a military background, but someone with an economic background, to try and make sure that things are set up so that Russia can continue financing the effort without removing itself from the big boys table. That's not going to be easy.
No, it won't be. It's going
And
to be
good.
difficult.
Because the last thing we want for this guy is for things to be easy. But that's what's going on there. So there are changes in the background
hmm
that would lead one to believe that there are things that will be happening or that could be happening in the next little bit. Now, when I say a little bit, months, maybe next year or so, that can start giving us an idea of where the pieces truly are on the chessboard here. But right now, there's still enough ability to make some shock and awe and create some false impressions. The other thing that was sort of decided, I'm not sure if that's unanimous among all the NATO peer nations, but there are some nations that are becoming quite okay with the concept of Ukraine using whatever weapons have been supplied to them to launch attacks within Russia, which also was a big no-no at the beginning of all of this. And some people, some of the nations are now, you know what, this has been going on for 2 years, going on 3. Fuck it, go for it.
hmm
So some attitudes are changing there, and those types of changes may prove to be very significant down the line. So keep your eyes and ears open for that, kids and cubs. There might be some changes coming over the next couple of months that are that might be that seem small little changes now, but when you project them a couple of months into the future, might be very big deal. In the United Kingdom, polls have been being released, and I know how we feel about polling and stuff. But the overall trend seems to be indicating in the UK that the Conservative Party in that nation is going to have a moment very similar to what the Progressive Conservatives in Canada had back in 1993. The Progressive Conservatives in 1993 went from an actual majority. I believe they had gotten over 50% of the votes in the previous election, had over 50% of the seats, down to just 2.
hmm
There's a YouGov poll that came out not too long ago that says the Conservative Party in the UK are going to be dropping down to 20 seats.
Interesting.
That is, if that comes to pass, that is, ooh boy, that'll switch some things up on the political scene there. It seems that the Labour Party, led by Keir Starmer, is going to be the expected victor so far. Now, Starmer took over from Jeremy Corbyn because apparently in the last election in the UK, his performance was so dismal that they turned around and basically got Tom Mulcair'd. You got to go, like now. So yeah, it seems that Keir Starmer as well has been going through the Labour Party's policies and ditching a lot of some more of the left-wing kind of stuff and opting more for the center. Now it seems that how do I put it? He's not the most how do you put it? Natural of politicians, often being criticized for being rather robotic. In fact, he had an exchange with a member of a live audience on Sky TV who said to him, "You seem more like a political robot. How are you going to convince others like me to vote for you?" And then, of course, well, when you ask a robot, could you be a little less robotic? They do so in a rather robotic way. So it seems that Starmer's reply to that question was rather robotic. But you kind of have to understand that Starmer is a fairly serious person. He identifies as a lawyer. In fact, he spent 3 decades as a lawyer, arguing facts, evidence, points of law, um, which can give you a bit of a wooden persona along the way. But you know, he's not just a lawyer; he was a human rights lawyer. But, these are the people that you normally associate with gravitas and seriousness, and
Yes.
it's like not like, hey, I just solved racism. Now let's go party. Woo! Let's get hammered. And throw some ass to some flow rider. Woo! So he's a serious man. So, um, not surprising that he might come across as being a bit robotic in that case. But he is promising to ditch policies like nationalizing energy companies. And he was running on hiring more school teachers, for example, and more police officers and investing in green energy. And he's saying that he'll pay for it by increasing selected taxes that would mostly hit wealthy people. So it's almost running a bit on Justin Trudeau's campaign when he came in
Very much so.
to power. This more green stuff, teachers, police, modest tax rate, or well, in this case, not modern tax hike because there was a middle class tax cut, but the concept of um, trying to shift more money into programs that were needed. So in the Canadian context, it was running modest deficits that he ran on that went against the orthodoxy of the moment. This running on raising selected taxes, but taxes for the wealthiest, which is what we're doing now in Canada with the capital gains inclusion, is also goes a little bit against the party orthodoxy, but he's running on it, and there seems to be an appetite for it at the moment. Stephen Fielding, who's a professor of politics at Nottingham University, who's written extensively on the Labour Party, predicts that Labour is indeed going to win, but says that the move towards the centre is kind of a good one because, quote, Labour has to bank Labour voters, those people who have loyally supported the party through the years of opposition, but it also needs to attract Conservative voters. And Rishi Sunak, the current prime minister, basically said, I don't view society as an us versus them. That is kind of the whole conservative mantra, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
But it's trying to say that. The conservatives are countering, of course, with heavy, broad-based tax cuts. The solution for everything. But with a stagnant economy and so many years in power, well, it seems that nobody might be listening. The fact that the Conservatives are going down is unfortunately a boon for the reformists, which means that Nigel Farage has decided to stick his mug back into things.
Big surprise.
So apparently he's getting a little bit of a boost out of that. But yeah, the vote is going to happen on July 4th, and that's happening. What's that? It's a pretty quick campaign. So, and it doesn't look like the Conservatives have much to say for themselves. In France as well, after the European parliamentary vote, French President Emmanuel Macron called some snap elections that are happening. The first vote, when we say snap, we really mean snap. The first vote is June 30th.
Oh, that is a snap election.
Yeah. And in
Very
France,
much
they
so,
have a
yeah.
runoff vote after if nobody hits 50% and runoff vote on July 7th. Yeah, that's pretty big. And I think it was like on the first day of the campaign, the Republicans in France ditched one of their leaders for something very similar that the AFD did, making some comments with regard to certain things involving Germans and Jewish people circa 1939 to 1944.
Hmm.
but were probably not the smartest thing to say. So, which may actually help the French president, because that's the whole point. Say, look at this. There's been rise of the right. This, do you really want this? It's like, I think that this is so concerning. We need to go to an election now and make sure that we shore up, those of us who are center or on the left, or even center right, as opposed to this thing. We need to fight this extremism, and so much so that very famous French soccer player Kylian Mbappe, who normally doesn't get involved in politics whatsoever, came
No.
out and made a statement and said, yeah, I normally don't get involved in politics, but this is kind of a moment.
Yeah.
Extremism is at our door, and we need to do something. France is a country that's always been a mix of tolerance and respect, and if not now, if you're not going to vote now, when? So,
Bit of a surprise to see him get involved. Good though, because he's got a large audience, a lot of pull, a
yes,
lot of influence, and yeah, no, I'm in agreement with him.
yeah, and preempting the traditional thing, you're an athlete, shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
Or you're a singer, shut up and sing. Don't get involved in politics. Reminding everyone that athletes are citizens first.
Yes. They seem to want to rob them of that. They're like, why is the actor? Why is the singer? Why is the athlete? Because they also live in society and vote. They have a voice. They're allowed to speak up. We might not like what they have to say. We might like what they have to say, but they have a voice. They're allowed to speak. And if you try and take it away from them, that is a violation of their democratic freedoms as a citizen of that nation. So,
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, it's there's lots of stuff going on. And then if we're moving to Israel, more stuff going on there. But Benny Gantz has left the
mhm.
war cabinet in Israel. He was the only centrist in it. Basically said that whatever he's been asking for has basically, ignored. He doesn't really see the point of being in it anymore,
I
which of
understand that the
course
war
leaves
cabinet's been
Netanyahu.
dissolved. It's been dissolved, apparently, the entire war cabinet. It was announced earlier this morning on the CBC.
Yep,
Yeah, it's been.
exactly. Which led to, which was creating a situation where Netanyahu was now, if he was staying in that war cabinet, was the even people that are more right and extreme than he is. So it seems that war cabinet has been dissolved in its entirety, as you mentioned, Mr. Grizzly. Uh, and it seems that there's something else going on, though, however. The Israel military has decided that it was going to carry out tactical pauses in southern Gaza. Israel military says that it's halting fighting for about 11 hours per day each day to allow a route in southern Gaza for humanitarian aid. This has been met with approval
Mhm.
from partners, but in Israel itself, the prime minister is denouncing his own military for doing this.
Yeah, kind of strange, huh?
This strikes me as a moment where the people of Israel are demanding elections. There are protests. Benny Gantz is demanding elections, saying that in October it's going to be a year, and this clearly is not working, and the focus does not seem to be on ending the war and getting the hostages returned, but seems to be something else going on. So there are demands for an election, and if we're at the stage now where the military is defying the prime minister, and the prime minister is out on the record denouncing the military for making decisions, and the military seems to be making decisions that are in line with international law, like making sure that humanitarian aid does get through, and the leader of the country wants the military to make decisions that would violate international law. That would seem to me that you kind of have some of the pieces set up for the Prime Minister's days for someone to say, break out the lettuce.
Yeah.
If he's lost the center and he doesn't want to go as far as the far right wants to go, and he is also criticizing his military, and his military is making decisions that go against what he wants, how many more days really can he remain?
Good question.
I say start the clock.
Yeah.
Things are going to get worse before they get better.
Certainly
If
seems
that's the
so.
dynamic going on.
Mhm.
This is it. You can't have two head generals in a war. And right now, it seems that we have some people who are freelancing. And freelancing to the better. Which is not saying much, though, however, considering the situation there. There was a period not too long ago where almost nothing came in for one of the borders for almost 5 weeks. And we had already talked about being at the stage of famine weeks before that. So, yeah, this is going to be a tricky situation that evolves. But that's that the war cabinet has been dissolved, and that the prime minister is criticizing its military for actions that it took to make sure that humanitarian aid does flow. Publicly denouncing,
Mhm.
this is not no good. This is not a situation that's on the path of getting better soon. This is a situation that's on the path of getting way worse before something major happens. That will be a catalyst to people hopefully smartening up, or not.
Well, it's tough to say, right? I mean,
Yeah, indeed. Mr. Risley, do you happen to have anything?
I do actually. I've got a few things here, and I want to start off with this one from Seamus O'Regan discussing the child care program and its positive benefits to the economy. Have a look at this.
Important to think of this as a sector that we can invest in. The government can invest in it, obviously. I know that's a focus for your government. What's your message to Bay Street and other investors about how to think about the care economy?
It's working for childcare. We've got a record number of women now in the workforce. And that happened after we started bringing in childcare across the country in provinces and territories. I mean, it's not, we knew that from Quebec, and we knew that from the Quebec experience. I think maybe we were just taken aback by how quickly it would take. There were a lot of women who did want to go back to the workforce, but could not find affordable childcare, and now they can. And we've got to ramp that up. We still have a long ways to go. But that does have an effect on the economy, because it means we are hiring the best people for the jobs. That's what I'm big on diversity in the workforce, because only when you knock down those barriers are you getting the best people.
Right.
Right?
Important to think of this as a sector that we can invest in.
The government can automatically start repeating. That drives me nuts. That the video starts to repeat automatically. I hate that. Yeah. Just careful. You're going to spill that. There we go. Sorry, Miss Mademoiselle Fox, over the other way. There you go.
Biker chick.
Oh, it's cute. She's got a little bow in her hair. It's cute. Just crouch down.
It's lovely.
Yeah. So there was that, and then I do have. It's 12 minutes and 28 seconds. It's JB's TED Talk.
Oh, yes. Are we allowed to show that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, why not? It's up on the Twitter. And I think I've retweeted it, and I've given it likes, and I'm going to retweet it and give it another like. I'm going to put it on. It's 12 minutes and 28 seconds, and it's really good. And I'm actually going to do something with it for JB and send it to him later. I'm not telling you what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something with it and send it to him when I get a chance later. But I have to take care of a couple of things here, so this gives me an opportunity to do that while you're watching JB. So check this out. This is really, really good. And
it's about UBI.
Yes, about UBI. And he delivered this in Grand Prairie, Alberta. Not exactly an easy audience, one would think. But watch the response and listen to what the man has to say. This is good. I'm really proud of him. This is so well done. That's a way to go, JB. That's a kicking ass and taking names is what he was doing right there. And sir, salute you. We'll have to get you back on the show soon to have a deeper discussion on this. It's something you and I, Mr. Beaver, and myself have supported for a long time. And we also oftentimes quote the late Senator Hugh Segal: "Bootstraps need boots." This is a man who was really a progressive conservative, really insistent upon a universal basic income because studies have shown, and many of them have proven this out, giving people money, the money comes right back into the economy, as evidenced by CERB. The money comes back into the economy. Was CERB perfect? No, it was thrown together very quickly during a time of crisis and emergency and needed to be done. This could be implemented correctly over time. It won't happen overnight, but it could make a tremendous difference in millions of lives in this country. And as JB said, somebody who is on a social support system, if their partner, their spouse, or even a roommate for that matter, if they share the same address, somebody starts working, they immediately cut their benefits off. Well, how do you get ahead that way? You don't. The system currently, as it is designed, is to keep people in poverty. It's to keep people down. It's to keep people poor. There's an entire industry around it, and people are getting rich off of it. And by the way, the people getting rich off of it are doing so on our backs because it's our tax dollars that pay for these services. So yeah, we can end a lot of different programs with a universal basic income. Welfare, EI, ODSP, all of that. All of that could be ended with a UBI. So I am in full support of it. Not to mention the fact that, let's not forget the fact that in time, in the near future, and it's happening right now, right in front of us, right in front of our eyes, millions of jobs are simply disappearing from the workforce because of automation and AI. And I've spoken about this at length, and people think, you're sounding a little bit panicky. Yeah, I am panicking because people are losing work, and how are they going to support themselves? So yeah, there's a problem happening. If we don't address it, we're done. So UBI, is it the be-all, end-all solution? No. But it certainly could help millions of Canadians. It could help millions of lives. And when you have multi-billionaires saying, we need to have a universal basic income because as jobs disappear, how are people going to be able to buy our goods and services? So see, this is not as altruistic as it sounds. It's very much self-serving when people are saying, we need to have this. It's self-serving because who's going to buy my product if they don't have money, if they don't have an income? How do they buy my product? So what they do is you tax the automated services and you tax the automation as if they were actual employees. That money goes into the UBI and then it comes right back. It's cyclical. It's all been proven. This can work. All we have to do is find the will to do it.
Yep. I have to agree with everything that you stated, Mr. Grizzly, there. First of all, number one, JB, whoa,
Yeah.
came armed with the facts. Thank
Yep.
you very much. And what I liked about his presentation is that normally these types of presentations are only done from one side. Notice, but he's making the argument that we often make on the show that when you do UBI, most people that talk against it talk about only how much it's going to cost. But he's mentioning, yes, there is this cost.
Of course there
But
is.
when you do that, you no longer have to pay for this. And if you no longer have to pay for that, well, the money you put in that is the money that goes here instead. So it's no additional cost. It's not like we're doing UBI and we're doing all the other stuff on top of that. Yes, there will at first, yes, first few years, because again, it takes some time for things to work itself through the system. But as people start becoming more entrepreneurial, start going to jobs that they would rather do rather than jobs that they must do, don't have to worry where the next meal is coming from, have the opportunity to tap into who they are, or have the ability to bring everything that they are to the table every single day by pursuing things for which they have passion. or upgrading your education because you want to contribute more. You want to know more. All these things that you can do under that in order to improve your own value to society. If we're talking in strictly capitalist terms and not even quality of life terms, These, these are all things. It's shifting money from one pool of money to another gradually over time. And
Correct.
as he mentioned, and again, if there are some like hardcore conservatives who heard that, they probably fell off their chair because he basically argued the budget will balance itself
But it will.
on the UBI thing.
Yes.
Eventually, over time, it will. Because less encounters with the health system, less encounters with the legal system, less more opportunity to pursue something that actually calls to you, which means less, uh, how many of us go to jobs that we don't like and feel that our souls are being beaten down? What effect does that have? Do we drink because of that? Do we consume other substances?
Hmm.
And not just like drugs or alcohol, food,
Yeah.
sex,
Yeah.
working out, all the addictions that we have, even the ones that people think are like healthy, all the things that we do to each other, the relationships with our families, how our mood is, like this, how many families end up result in a broken home because people just hate what they're doing and they bring that home every day and they're in a bad mood in all the ways that can manifest itself.
And then
Um,
what does that do? That affects your mental health,
yeah,
right? Which it's a cyclic, a pebble in the pond. Pebble in the pond, the waves. It just grows out and expands and hits everybody in its pathway. One of
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the one of the things, because we talk about
yeah.
mental health, we just had a big walk about it. One of the things that affects people's mental health is, and of course, it's just a two-headed snake, one eating its tail and one eating something else, is that when your income is low and you're suffering and you're having money problems, that feeds your depression. And then some days you just simply can't go to work. And if you can't go to work, you can't earn money because there are millions of us that have 2, 3, maybe one sick day in a calendar year. I get 3. I get 3 in a calendar year. And they're not necessarily sick days. They're just 3 days, whether I'm sick or a personal day or I need to take, time off for mental health day. But I get 3 in a calendar year. What are you
Yeah.
supposed to do if you get COVID? How long are you supposed to isolate for?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then JB was talking about other things, like, for example, situations of domestic violence where people can't get out.
Massive.
And it's really funny he mentioned this because today, as we're talking about this, um, there is an initiative going through Parliament, I believe it is. It's proposed legislation to intervene in domestic violence cases sooner by making something that is called coercive control a crime
Mm.
that would fill a gap in protecting victims. Now, if you're wondering what coercive control is, it's stuff like, for example, um, let's say that you are in an abusive situation and you want to go, uh, but your partner controls access to all the bank accounts
Yeah. Where do you go? You can't. You got
or your
nowhere to go.
passport,
You're handcuffed.
or your partner has just decided that he's taking the wheels off your car,
Yeah. Yeah.
or um, randomly on random nights leaves in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning with your 2 kids,
It
and
happens
you
a
wake
lot.
up and they're gone and you don't know where they are for a couple of days. All these methods of coercive control, and one of them is money.
Hmm.
If everybody has their own basic income going into their own bank account, that changes a lot of things for a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
So um, there are a lot of people that are in relationships who are never physically assaulted,
Hmm.
but they are abused of in many other ways.
Oh, indeed.
And coercive control is one of the ways that it's done. So there's proposed legislation that would create a new crime in Canada called coercive control, which is defined as behavior by a current or former partner or family member that
Mhm.
causes the victim to fear they will be physically harmed, causes their mental health to decline, or causes the victim such alarm or distress that there is substantial adverse effect on their day-to-day activities, such as work, school, or the ability to take care of children. The
Wow.
House of Commons Justice Committee tabled a report in Parliament in April recommending a national task force study adding coercive control to the criminal code and to report to the Justice Minister within a year. Um, Now, coercive control can take many forms, but the key element is that it encompasses a pattern of behavior rather than focusing on individual one-off incidents. So basically, most many instances of domestic violence, when you dig back into how it happened, there were all these instances of coercive control that happened before. There could even be instances where nobody has laid a hand on anybody until they do.
Hmm.
But almost all of them have some type of coercive control somewhere along the way. And having this type of legislation would allow authorities to be able to intervene when they say, well, you know, ma'am, I know he's doing all these things, but he hasn't hit you yet, so call us when he does. This allows an entry to intervene a whole lot
Oh,
earlier.
yes.
Now, couple that with UBI, so you have the means to go.
So you now have the means and you have the law on your side. So this could be a transformative. I mean, absolutely
You don't,
transformative. We just got to get the UBI rolling.
because imagine you do all the work, you get yourself to a point where you're ready to go, and then there's no shelter. There's no place for you. If you have your own money, you can find a place much more easy.
Hmm. And people say, well,
This,
there's emergency shelters you can get yourself into. I'm like, yeah, but they don't always have room. Number one. Number two, in many cases, the shelter could be worse than the situation they were in. I have friends who work in that field who have told me some horrible stories about what can happen.
yeah,
It's not easy, and it's not for the faint of heart to listen to some of the stories. And my buddy, his boss will tell him, "You need to take 4 weeks off right now. Go, get out of here. Don't take your phone. Don't take your work phone. Do not talk to us. Go out, get away. You need to do this for your mental health and well-being, because he gets hit with some pretty serious stuff. He's a good man, and he's running. Well, I can't say actually. I can't say that, but I'm going to see. I want to get. I want to have an interview with him, but it would have to be concealed identity and augment his voice, because there's always things at risk when you have somebody who works in that line of work and wants to openly discuss things. They need to have a level of anonymity and protection so that it doesn't reflect negatively on them. But there are things that need to be said and stories that need to be told.
mm, mm, mhm, mhm, mhm. Now, this bill here that's going through Parliament is a private member's bill, tabled by an NDP MP from British Columbia, whose name is Randall Garrison. He introduced the bill last fall after speaking with several police departments serving his Victoria area riding. They all reported a spike in domestic violence calls after the COVID-19 pandemic started. Both police and women's advocates told him that the tools were needed to allow police to act sooner. Quote,
Hmm.
the current structure of the criminal code simply makes the police walk away, even when they know that situations are potentially very dangerous. They don't have the authority to intervene, so it creates that tool for earlier intervention, which is what I was mentioning earlier. Um, Darling, Darling is another person here. Sergeant Mike Darling of the Regional Domestic Violence Unit in Victoria says, quote, the victim wanted to leave the relationship and made attempts to do so, and unfortunately the circumstances didn't have a specific criminal offense that was related to, say, intimate partner violence, he said. It really didn't enable protective conditions to be put in place, and so in that particular case, the offender was actually emboldened to continue to contact the victim and continue with the controlling behaviors that he had demonstrated throughout their relationship. Um, Talking about a specific case. Now, when they say controlling behavior being a red flag, um, in 2017, there was the case of Andrew Barry, who had killed both of his daughters on Christmas Day in Victoria. So that's where these officers come to this point where they've realized that they need this tool. Um, and the person who was the victim in this case is quoted as saying, "I really loved working with children and families, but in my experience, I did see failures happening already, and it was really, really frustrating. We're always asking just how violent is he? Where, from my understanding, we really need to be asking how controlling is he? Because control is at the root of domestic violence." So there's all these ways that a UBI can come in and be handy. And there are some initiatives. I believe the province of Prince Edward Island is looking at doing a full-scale pilot on the province, and I believe we have a Senator Kim Pate, I believe is her last name, who has been leading the charge for a bill on UBI that has originated in the Senate. And is trying to get that through, and hopefully we'll be able to have her on the show as well at some point to talk about that, because this seems to be the most credible initiative that is going on currently across the country. And it seems that the senators might be a little bit more on board than the House of Commons than this. But of course, there's a bit of a tradition in the Senate with the late, great Hugh Segal that had made it his pet cause. And it seems that people have taken up picked up the torch and are running with it on this leg of the relay. So there will be more to discover there and more to report upon there as things progress through the parliamentary process. But for JB, I mean, a TED Talk, how freaking cool is that?
Yeah.
And then to pick such a great subject, to be invited for such a great subject, something that is so needed, and then to deliver it so well.
Oh, yes.
I'm just, dude, respect. Much respect. Thank you for doing the research. Thank you for putting in the good word. Thank you for all the work that you put in up to the point that got you noticed, that somebody said, hey, you need to have a TED Talk. Because that doesn't just happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a good 10,000 hours. When they say put in your 10,000 hours, there's probably 10,000 hours out of 10,000 hours of work
Oh, yes.
that went in just to be invited, to be noticed and worthy enough to be invited to a TED Talk in the first place, and then to deliver it. I'm so happy for him. He was
Me too.
really nervous.
Yeah, he did
was
good job.
really nervous
He
before
did
he
a good
left.
job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
No
have
reason to
something.
be. He knocked it out of the park.
I have something to show you. I don't know if you
Yes,
saw
please.
this yesterday. This is the most ridiculous damn thing I've ever seen, and I can no longer take them seriously. I mean this. It's like they're dead to me right now. When you see what I'm about to show you, I'll put it on the screen for a few seconds, then I'll read it. Because when you see this, when you read this, you'll be like, well, they're finished. This is the most ridiculous damn poll I've ever heard of in my life. From Polling Canada, which is Abacus Data, David Coletto. Which party would be best on dealing with the lack of freedom in Canada? What kind of a stupid-ass question is that?
I know. Yep, that's just dumb question. Those are the types of questions that legitimize these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, now pollsters are asking about the lack of freedom in Canada. It must be a thing. It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. We are the second freest nation on earth after a three-way tie between Norway, Finland, and Sweden, which, if we want to be the freest nation on earth, you know what that means. We need to make sure that post-secondary education is fully funded by the state. We need to improve on our health care right across the board and put an end to privatization of all of it. Because the freest nations on earth have some of the best social programs in the world. Oh, by the way, also, they don't really have a minimum wage law in any of those countries. Well, Sweden may, Norway does not, and Finland does not. But it's just a given that you pay more than a livable wage to your employees. You could start at a fast food or a coffee chain tomorrow in Norway You get 4 weeks paid vacation, full benefits right across the board. You could say after a week, I would like to take some time off. They would go, okay, how much time would you like? Could I take 2 weeks right now? Sure thing, no problem. That doesn't happen in this country or in this part of the world for that matter. It simply, you get your 10 days as mandated by law. And it might take you 7 years to get another 5, which is bullshit because 10 days in a calendar year is not enough. Why do you think people call in sick frequently? Because they don't have the time they need to get the shit done in their lives.
Yep.
So yeah, there's lots of things that need to happen. A UBI is a major one of them.
Yep.
It would go a long way to improving lives right across the board.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show, episode number 405. Woohoo! We hope that you loved listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, so please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Spread the word, spread the beaver. And if you, hey, that came from the kids. That came from the kids.
I'm not touching that one, though. I'm not touching
repeat it. I don't create it.
I know.
the kids, it's the kids who want us to spread the beaver.
Okay.
It's not my fault. I am completely blameless.
Okay.
So, tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you would like to not miss an episode, you do not have to, thanks to the fun, the feisty, the fabulous, the fierce, the fashionable, the Ray Girl, whose sponsors are PodPage. So if you scan that QR code that's right under my chin, that will bring you there. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click on subscribe there, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And speaking of shows coming to you, I was able to catch up on a few episode descriptions over the weekend. So hopefully we'll get caught up for you relatively soon for our audience listening at home, just on the ears only podcast version.
I've got some work to do for that, so it'll be a little bit.
The walk is set aside. I have time to get back to regularly scheduled programming. So let's do that. If you would like to support us in other ways, make like Kit Lane and have a wonderful day. And go to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page and smash with our buttons. Like, share, and subscribe are waiting for you. So lick them or click them. Either way, it makes us happy. And if you would like to support us in other ways, you can go to our coffee page where you will find the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, our fancy name for our tip jar, where our friends Coffee and Caesar and hot chocolate and Guinness, whether percentage or zero, doesn't matter. They're all waiting for us. Somebody scan the QR code. Thank you so much to help us write, produce, market, deliver this show that you have come to love over the past years. So thank you very much. If you go to coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word, that's where you can make your contribution to our tip jar. Every little bit helps, but the gift of your attention is the one we cherish most. And we'd love to hear from you. So truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. I'll repeat that again because I think we lost connection for a little bit. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you go if you want us to hear from you. Write to us. Let us know what you think about the episodes. Send us some suggestions, some ideas. Participate in the conversation. We're really happy. And if you want to also, while you're there, leave a little money for one of our 2 grassroots organizations for the mental health walk, Men of the North or the Lonely Man Project, please do. Just a simple e-transfer will do it. Or if you want to buy one of our stylish t-shirts, we have some up until the end of the month. That's $35, and your shirt size and your snail mail address to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and we will send you one of our very, very snazzy mental health walk t-shirts. So we thank you for all your help and support that way. Because democracy is something that you do, please continue supporting the mental health walk if you can. If you are in Alberta, please participate in the NDP leadership race in whatever way you can, because you've got a good one going. And if you are in Saskatchewan, if you are in New Brunswick, or also in British Columbia, well, you have provincial elections coming this year. So try to find out how it is that you can help democracy happen where you are, right? Either by voting at a polling station or volunteering in some way for your candidate of choice. very important. And make sure that you plan your vote and you plan to bring someone with you, right? Preferably somebody who didn't vote last time, because we need more people voting. Yeah, very, very important. Um, from the Beaver Lodge, this is your eager beaver saying it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and help gentle with yourself, and especially be kind to and gentle with yourself because according to Environment Canada, if you're in Ontario or Quebec, we are bracing for our first major heat wave. It's part of a heat dome that's already roasted parts of the United States. Warnings are in effect with highs that are going to feel like 45
Yes,
degrees
that's
Celsius. It's not
that's
going to be the
big.
base temperature, but it's going to feel like 45 degrees Celsius. And it seems that nighttime will not be giving us much relief during this part of the thing.
Yep.
So make sure that you stay hydrated. Hydrate. Loose, baggy clothing.
Perhaps a summer
Keep,
dress.
yeah, keep your body cool. Um, do not go for a jog. Do not make the mistake I made last year during the smoke thing. Go play tennis on a warm
Don't
day
stay indoors.
and then end up making yourself sick. Um, uh, so yeah, just it, you don't have to get it all done on days when the heat is oppressive,
Mhm.
right? So schedule stuff for early in the morning when it's a little cooler. Take your siesta. You know, rest in the late at evening if things are a little cooler that you can do something. But you know, when you're at peak sun, you know, or solar noon, don't
Mhm.
just don't. It's not that important.
Well,
You
we're
are.
expecting a possible high of 37 on Wednesday here in Ottawa, in Canada's capital. 47 with humidity, so 47 with the humidex, but 37 is the possible high, which means because the human body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, it would be literally hot as balls outside. You like that one, eh? That's a good one. That's a good one, huh?
It's hot as balls.
It literally will be on Wednesday.
Is that a sauna in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? All right, get some cubs. Be kind to and gentle with yourself, as I said. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom, please.
Yeah, well, not words of wisdom as much as just a big thank you and a shout out to everybody who came out on
Yeah.
Saturday. It means a lot to me personally, and for the support that we received both online, in person, during the pubcast, along with the folks who donated money. And just as a heads up, we've got a few people that we had a little discussion Saturday evening about getting involved next year, helping to promote it, helping to get the organization up and running. And then yesterday, when I was at my family's place for Father's Day, a friend in the broadcasting business might be able to lend a hand. Somebody else who is close to me has said this friend of mine would be absolutely on board with that, and they can help you with media presentations and prints and distribution. And might have another possible media personality who could lend a hand in promoting and maybe interviewing us for a larger distribution network, if you will. We'll leave it at that for now. I mean, we're a year away, we're a year out,
Mhm.
but we have some people who do want to get involved, and said how much it meant to them that we did what we did and as quickly as we did. So yeah, next year, and don't forget the senator and the doctor. Both are fully on board for next year. He's like, Senator said, I would like to do this for as long as you'll have me. I'm like, as long as we can keep moving, let's keep doing it.
Yep. And a lot of people have been offering this help for other things, and we're very happy. One of the things that we do want to do, however, sooner rather than later, if possible, is have some type of web presence for our show and for the walk and that type of stuff. So if there are any kids out there who are good at designing basic websites and would like to give us a help with that and
I could do it.
transfer
I
them
don't
over.
have the time. I just
Yeah,
don't have the time.
yeah. That's something that would be very helpful, or if there are people that know how to program an app, design one,
Mhm.
that would be great. That would be very, very helpful, and that is probably the next thing that we need to work on, because if we want to get advertisers, then we have to have that
Mhm.
type of stuff, because saying, we're only going to mention you on the show. Yeah, but don't you have a website that where our ad can be like 24/7 when somebody's there? It's
Yes.
like that. No, not yet. So that's probably what's standing in our way in terms of our growth. So if somebody is able to help with that, please write to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and we can definitely use that help. That's for sure. All right, Mr. Grizzly, if Kit Michael were here, he would say, cue the cock.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
I have a quick Easter egg. I know you don't have one, but I have a quick one for you, sir.
Woohoo!
So we wanted to get to 1,000 by Canada Day, and we hit 2,000. Now we're at 2,320 as of this exact moment. Can we
I
get to
want
3,000?
more.
Can we get to 3,000 by Canada Day?
I
Maybe.
want more.
Maybe. Time
And
will
we-
tell. All right, I gotta go. I'll see you. You take care.
Bye.